Welcome to A New View. We are Restored Ministries, and this week's episode, we're going to talk about friend ghosting. Ooh. Now, before you think like, what is friend ghosting? And things, that is a terminology that
we don't even know.
We don't even really know.
We're just making this up. I'm kidding. No. You know, I don't even know what. I started looking up articles. It's been a couple months, but about friendships and about. I was personally struggling with something in my friendships, and I don't even remember the word I typed into Google because I'm one of those people that's like, I'm just gonna Google it. And now my husband does it all the time. I'm laughing at him because I'm like, dude, are you gonna Google that? And this article came up, and it's online at Time Magazine, and it was from this woman. It was her post, and I believe it's her research that she cites, and she uses the word friendship ghosting. And I found one other blog that was really, really good on HuffPost. And I need to figure out, I might post it because it's very, if you're a woman and you're watching and you read this blog post, you might shed a couple tears on it because it's something you can totally relate to. But on the Time Magazine article, when the woman does the research about friendship ghosting and what she calls it, she lists it as friend ghosting. And she basically gives a scenario of, she starts off in a scenario where there's three friends, and this happened to someone she interviewed in middle school. So go back to your middle school days, girls. I'm sure it's not that far for you. You probably remember some of these instances where all of a sudden this person was friends with three people, but she was shut out by the other two. And the author calls this being cut off or cut out. I have our daughter's about to be in middle school. And they already have some friend drama, you know, these girls, and it's nothing bad, but it's little things like that. One day you feel like one of the girls is really in and then she's not, and you're just sad when you hear these stories. But friendship ghosting for us as women, I think what I would define it as based off this article is basically when we disappear as friends. And I know you know what I'm talking about. I know y'all know what I'm talking about because we've either done it or we've been a victim of it, or we've been a part of it. And there's so many different stories in this one article that this author puts about, yes, this is very common for middle schoolers, high schoolers, girls that are in college, sororities, all that. But
some haven't outgrown it. We know as women, it's
basically you not being able to be 100% honest and upfront with your friend and saying, hey, this is my problem. This is what's going on. I need space. Or this has been bothering me. What happens is you just decide either over time this person has hurt you or got on your nerves or bothered you, and you don't give them the ability, you don't give them that opportunity to say, hey, this bothered me or this hurt me. Can we talk about it? When you ghost somebody, you basically are like, I'm done. Because what she talks about is if you had a conversation with the person about it, that makes it seem like you want to work it out. But if you ghost them, you're like, I'm done. I mean, that's harsh, guys. But I know we've been a part of it. I know we've suffered from it. And I can tell you myself, I've done that to people. Not over a long period of time, but I'll drop away. She even talks about sometimes we ghost because we become too close to someone and we're not comfortable with that.
To protect yourself.
Yeah. What do you guys think about that?
So many things. I mean, I've done it in the last couple of years to somebody kind of hard, and for me it was sort of self-protection, and like I literally heard the Holy Spirit say, you need to tell this woman some hard things that she doesn't want to hear, and I was like, I can't do that. So I had to just be done. So and sometimes it is that someone has hurt you, but I also, before I get into why I don't like the whole concept, so what I call surface ghosting. It's not so painful. It's, you know, maybe we're all getting together for lunch and maybe you either didn't show up and didn't let us know you weren't coming, or canceled right at the last minute, that kind of a thing. And that happens all the time. And
Hey, I call that flakiness.
Flaky, that's what I call them. Unreliable.
But you know, the deeper ghosting is what all these articles, if you Google it, it's mostly demeaning people that do it, saying that we're bad people or we're bad at communicating. And
that's hard.
Sometimes that's true. I guess I'm standing up for you ghosters, because there's two sides to every story.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
But that deeper ghosting, the more psychologically impactful, is that cutting off communication that you had some relationship with someone and they have zero explanation. So leaving them with zero closure truly messes with their mind.
Yeah.
And that's why all these articles are coming out, basically making us and the ghoster the villain.
Yeah, that's really hard because you're looking at it. There's a terminology that the teenagers like to use, and it's called left on red.
I love this.
And they get really frustrated, you know, when you send somebody a text and you're a friend or a friendship, and they just left me on red. I'm like, what is that? You know, like they read your text, but they don't give you the courtesy of responding back. And I told my teenagers, I'm like, excuse me. That happens all day, every day by adults that I know. They leave you on red. And I'm one that I don't have my phone with me all the time. I also do a fasting period each day where I don't go to my phone. And if I don't have it, if I see it, then I'm going to respond to it, or I'm going to say, hey, can I get back to you later? I'm going here, I'm going there. But I really don't like to leave someone left on red. So when my teenagers were telling me about it, and we were talking about the whole friend ghosting thing, I was like, left on red. Oh my goodness, I started getting left on red by some people, and I'm thinking, what is this? You know, like, I mean, left on
more of an awareness.
Yeah, I was like left on red for days, for months. A couple of them still got me left on red. And so at first,
hold on, let me go back through my messages and make it okay.
no, not John. But I was really like, wow. And then I thought, okay, I'm a secure person in certain things. I would say, you know, that I'm more of a bolder. I wasn't always that way. Don't wear my feelings on my sleeve anymore. But I really thought, wow, this probably does mess with some psyches, you know, or whatever you want to call it, some minds,
more sensitive
people, because then when their perception starts going on overload, and that, you know, we know our perception can be so full of deception. The perception is like, they've dumped me, they don't love me, they don't like me. What did I do? We take it internally, like, what did I do? And so I was really telling the Lord, I'm like, I'm a little bit, you know, irritated that they left me on red, but I can either take that internally and get offended by it, or I can say, well, Lord, I don't know all things. Maybe they lost their message, maybe they never saw the message, maybe they didn't see the 3 or 4 messages that I sent, you know, or maybe they just don't care, or maybe ultimately I have to trust, like we were saying last week, we have to trust on a deeper level that says their response to my message, their response to anything doesn't make me worthy or unworthy. However they respond, this or that. If they don't respond or if they do, if they ghost me or don't ghost me, if they left me on red or they don't left me on red, whatever it is, that's where he ultimately says, I'm your vindicator, I'm your protector, trust me. You know, because sometimes he does have to move some things. And I also think about friend ghosting as we have those friends that become ghosts, that we've reached out to and said, hey, what's up? But there are people that like to ghost because they draw attention by that. So they will separate themselves, say, from the group or from the friend group or whatever it is. You know, like you said, kind of flake out on some commitments and things like that. But what it is they become offended by something, and then they want to have a pity party, and they're expecting everybody else to like burn up their phone or burn up their, you know, and say, oh, coddle, come, what's wrong with you? And they won't tell you, you know. And in those instances, I actually have a little bit of zero tolerance for that.
I asked of zero.
I asked
a little bit of like zero.
Yeah, just a little bit. I have zero tolerance for that. And I'm always asking the Lord, you know, like, am I supposed to reach out? Am I, you know, what am I supposed to do? This person's ghosting hard, but I know that's their personality.
And that's the
they
key.
like to do that.
Come to a point where you kind of know that is their their, what is that called? That is their
MO. That's their MO. That's what they like to do, because some people, they want to listen to counsel all day long, but they're not interested in freedom. Like you were saying, God told you to say some hard things to some people. You didn't feel comfortable, so you kind of ghosted yourself and kind of just said, let's let seasons go, but it's a hard thing, because when we were thinking about this, I was like, wow, there's so many aspects to this whole friend ghosting thing.
I did, I mean, and when I did that, it was a really hard thing, and it took me months to fight about whether I could say what I needed to say or how to do it, and I pulled away, and they were still pulling. And so whenever I did finally end it, I did say, you know, I'm thankful for the time we've had together. It's kind of done now, but, you know, it was, and I tried not to say anything bad, but I got a, you know, huge negative response, and I got told I'm not a very good Christian because I'm not going to be their friend and things like that. But you know what? But I still had so much peace in doing it, because sometimes it is a person that you need to cut ties with. One of the articles that actually
their MO was guilt. They were guilty.
Oh, for sure.
They were guilty.
One of them had me offended for the ghosters. Gave a list. There's apparently 10 reasons why it would be okay to ghost people, even though ghosting is horribly wrong.
See that article?
Oh my goodness, I didn't see that one.
But the reasons are things like if someone cheated on you with your partner, or
bye, Felicia.
That's not called ghosting. That's called like
kicking them to the curb.
Every time you let them in, they hurt you, or they've stolen something valuable from you. I'm like, if you're my friend and you stole something from me, even if it's not valuable, I need to question whether or not
you have problems and you don't
need some help, klepto. Going off the rails a little bit here, sorry.
I'm just promoting that there are lots of reasons why somebody.
We can ask them.
There was something we had said here. You can't take everyone with you forever. Some people's seasons are meant to end.
Right.
And you don't need to have a top 10 like hit list of horrible things that they might have done.
Checklist like, can I ghost them now? They've done this, this, and this. Can I ghost them now?
Yeah. I liked because I understand what you're saying as far as being the ghoster and why you did that, and kind of I think that kind of goes with, okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and read what she said about this, because and I'm gonna get back to that because it comes to it, but she talked about in the article about how many of these cutoffs where you get excluded from a group or something happen and you don't even know why. So we talked about no closure.
Look at how many people unfriend or unfollow you on Facebook, and then all of a sudden you find, because they're on another person's thing, and you're like, oh, I must have offended them. They hate me now. They unfriended me.
Right. So she talks about why do people ghost, and I said already, like, sometimes because explaining means you want to work it out, and that's not what you want to do. Many find it hard to say anything negative outright, so they just ghost, like what you were talking about.
Right.
Again, they're overwhelmed by the closeness that they've created. So, okay, so in the blog that I was talking about, where this girl tells her story, she's writing in a different article from the Timeline. This is the HuffPost blog about a girl who writes a letter to her friend that ghosted her. Okay, and she says, I now know why you ghosted me. I never had any closure, and I understand now. And she basically talks about that it had more to do with the friend, like the actual person that ghosted her, than it ever did with her. That it was her friend, everything to do with what was going on in her friend's life at that moment than it was her. And that's a big thing. And that doesn't, yes, it kind of sounds selfish, and yes, we should be better about communicating, but if you are ghosted by somebody as an adult woman, you need to pray about it, and you need to put yourself in the other person's shoes, or be able to have empathy and say, look, there might be things going on in that person's life that I think I have a clue about, but I absolutely don't. And reach out and say what you need to say in kindness or whatever, and then let it go. I'm in a season of let it go, girl. Like, you just have to be able to say,
trust God and say He knows what we don't know. Our perception will just run rampant, and it'll just be so full. I mean, a couple of years ago when God really gave me that phrase and He said, your perception is so full of deception, I'm like, yeah, you're right. You know, that person's just like, I'm busy, or I got this, or they might come back to you and just say, you know, I'm in a pity party stage right now, you know, whatever it is.
And I think if you are also the person who you feel like you're ghosting someone, or you've done that, or it's a pattern for you, I think you have to look at yourself and ask yourself some hard questions and say, what kind of friend and what kind of woman do I really want to be in these relationships? Because I've had to do that. Like, I feel like I kind of pulled away from a couple of my friends that I've been really close to, and I was real honest with my girlfriend after the fact. I was like, look, this is kind of what I've been doing, and she's like, duh, like, I'm not a dummy. No. And it was because I was having issues with another friend, and it was so or with another group, it was like so consuming, and I feel like it started with something in my family, like I had problems in my family, and so I was kind of like wounded, and then I ended up feeling like I took that little woundedness and got wounded in other areas, and I just was like, okay, I'm just gonna close up and ghost because I can't take any more like offending people or hurting people's feelings or being pissed off, or so I totally related to this whole ghosting thing, and if you Google it and you find some interesting stuff, it is pretty interesting for women. We are some interesting creatures.
So one other thing I thought was interesting, one of the articles was talking about how people think the opposite of love is hate. But in hate, there can be so much passion, it's like equivalent of love. That the true opposite of love is indifference. And when you have someone ghost you, it is indifference. You know you full on have like zero value in their life at this point if they are ghosting you.
Right.
So, yeah. So, I mean, the pain makes sense. But honestly, for the ghosters, no shame. If you've done it because you consulted and it was the right thing to do, no shame. And if you don't feel that, I said if your heart's in the right place, if you don't feel the holy draw into a confrontation, because maybe for you, it is a confrontation.
Well, sometimes their MO is they want to be confronted. Yeah. They're waiting for you to go so that they can just, you know. And so I'm just like, not me. I have zero tolerance. So for me, I have to kind of find the balance. And when the Holy Spirit says reach out, you know, don't tell them a million reasons why I can't, but also I don't have to go through the whole 10 checklist. You know, if someone's not valuing me, if someone's flaking out, if they're not reliable, if they're not the things, I need to move on and trust that God's going to do that.
Maybe He's making room in your life for something else, so just be glad for it.
So we really want to hear what you think about this whole friend ghosting. Have you been ghosted? Did you ghost? Have you been left on red? Have you left others on red?
Don't write names.
Don't write names. Don't write names.
We need the whole story.
Don't write names. And Stephanie's going to put those links to those articles when we share the link to this video. So we hope that you have maybe begun to feel like, hey, don't internalize it. Don't think, hey, there's something wrong with me.
There's something wrong with all of us.
Right. We don't know the backstories on a lot of things. So let's just trust that their rejection is God's protection for us. Take care.